Well, these are the kind of paintings that I spend most of my time on. You'll note that this here book, Romanesque art, I'm very keen on Romanesque art. The shape, the quatrefoil, is used in Romanesque painting. And the great thing about a shape like this is it's composed of 4 great circles. So you've got implicit within your starting point these lines that are happening within the picture. So even though you might not be following them, because they're implicit, you can begin to work against them. So the whole business of making this picture is around making these shapes and playing with balance. Although it's not central to it, I think that thing about if you actually look at a waterfall for a long time, what happens is the landscape around starts to move. It's the same kind of process that happens when railway stations move when you're in a carriage. You know, that the landscape around the waterfall suddenly starts to lift up because you've been staring at this waterfall for so long. But it's essentially the way that the fall of the water animates the landscape. And also, the waterfall is such a romantic symbol. Coleridge wrote about the waterfall symbolising the sameness of form and change of matter. I've done a lot of paintings of waterfalls, and they're often stemming from an interest in Coleridge and his use of the waterfall as a kind of metaphor for change and constancy. I mean, this one is the place where my parents' ashes are scattered, and so you start off from that, and then you can begin to make a song or make music, make the composition work. So I've done also quite a lot of rock pools, and so you start off on the fact that it's an oval, and then many of these started off from the idea of an oval within an oval. It's using that as the starting point of different kinds of circling. So the eye can circle, these makes a little figure of 8s and move around. In the repertoire of shape, as it were, you've got either lines that can lead into other lines. You've got echoes where forms can, the eye jumps from one shape into another shape that's echoing that.
In your gallery there's a series of paintings of a cliff heading out to sea, and then sometimes there's a plant and a flower in front of it. Can you tell me a bit about those, because those obviously are drawing from a real life place?
Yes. Well, I lived for the first 15 years or so when I came down from London in a place called Welcome, and that was where I used to go out and paint in front of the object. So all those places became incredibly important to me. But equally, that motif of a jug of flowers or something in front of a landscape is a very stock, well, it is quite English, I suppose, English motif. I think of people like Winifred Nicholson. I quite like sometimes trying to do things that are almost like part of the canon. You know, have a go at that one. Have a go at a bowl of flowers in front of a cliff. So.
And what's the process? I mean, look around the more figurative ones. Do you sit in front of that landscape and paint that landscape, or do you get an impression in your mind and take it home with you?
There's lots of different things, because some of the things I've been painting now for 35 years, and I started off sat in front of a cliff or a rock, you know, day in, day out, painting it and really getting to know it. So I've got that, as it were, in my memory bank. The more recent subjects, sometimes I'll do a sketch, but sometimes I walk past the Red Cross shop regularly. I walk past charity shops regularly, so I'm always looking in them and then picking out things or themes that I might use. And the great thing about charity shops is the extraordinary variety of objects that you get there. You can have anything there. So from a formal point of view, from composing a picture, you know, the sky's the limit. You can have any colour, any shape, because any object that you would like to paint, you can put into this arrangement. And because there's no logic in the juxtaposition of objects, you can have a football next to it, which is a nice round shape, next to a sort of wedding dress, which is a big white shape. So you can do all sorts of formal things with your shapes and your colour, knowing that whatever you use in order to make that happen, there's no reason why it wouldn't be in a charity shop window. And then once you've realised that you've got this great opportunity to play with colour and shape, you can also play around with some ideas. So the fact that the mannequin is headless, you can begin to put in alternative heads, whether it's hats or skulls or clocks or plates. Because it's a shop window, you can begin to play with layering, so you can have the kind of posters that are on the shop window in front of the objects that you're depicting behind the glass. So there's all sorts of opportunities, as it were, to play with when you're making those kinds of pictures. And again, there's a certain amount of equality. It's, people can afford the stuff in the charity shop.